spiritual surfing. Why is the spirit-filled life like surfing? I grew up in the water. My father was a surfer, and I spent the majority of my life in the water, surfing. When I was really young, body surfing, boogie boarding, snorkeling. I spent the majority of my life in the water. And a couple things I learned from the waves and the ocean and its connection to the spiritual life is about energy. And there's something about being a surfer, unless you are, you don't really understand. But those who understand, you know that once you get it, you get a bug. And there's something about it that you can't explain. You can't put it into words what that connection is. And I'm going to do my best to put it into the best terms that I can, because I believe it's the closest thing that you could have in this physical world to that spiritual connection. And the reason I say that is the spirit is energy. And in the scriptures it talks about the spirit being like wind. And that we don't see where the wind goes, but it's there. And that we're not to try to determine who has and who doesn't have the spirit and take ourselves into a judgment seat to say this person does and this person doesn't. But what I've learned about this spirit-filled life and its connection to the ocean and the waves, especially the waves, is the energy. And that energy comes from sometimes very far away, and it travels a long distance until it arrives here at the coast, wherever you are. The coast accepts the energy from very far away. And then this energy culminates with these waves. Once it hits a certain depth, that energy then transforms itself into a wave. And as a surfer, you learn to catch that form of energy and to ride with the energy, and you build a relationship with something that is almost unexplainable. It's like walking on water. When you get good at it, you feel like you're walking on water. And the connection that you build with the ocean and your board and your friends and the people who you go surfing with is a very strong bond. And the bond is because of the ocean and the energy that is being released as it comes into the shore. And this energy can be very powerful sometimes, so powerful that it can take your life. And if you don't know what you're doing out there in big surf, it's very highly dangerous. And I've surfed 20-foot waves all up and down California and Mexico and Hawaii. And one of the things that I learned is that you have to have a lot of respect for this energy form. And the minute you lose respect for it and you think it's a game is when you get taught a lesson. And the lessons that you learn in the ocean are very similar to the spiritual lessons that we learn in life, because the spirit-filled life is that of energy. And we need to understand the spirit as energy, and its application for us is to understand how that energy works. And it's just like surfing. You don't sometimes know where that energy is coming from, yet you have faith that when you see this wave rising, you paddle for it. And it's the same in the spirit-filled life. When the spirit moves you, and those who have a powerful spiritual filled life, you know what I mean. When the spirit moves you, typically you get, the chicken bumps, and you feel something that you just don't feel normally. It's a very powerful experience. Sometimes you could, send shivers up your spine and tingling sensations and like lightning, and you feel like you got hit by lightning, and there can be, sometimes very serious interaction with spirit. And it's the same thing with surfing. Sometimes that energy, when you're in a barrel, you can feel how powerful that energy form is. And just being there, standing inside of a barrel, you feel the release of all this energy, and it makes you as an individual very high energy, and it gives you a rush of energy like you cannot explain. And the only thing that I've had more powerful in my life than the surfing experience is the spirit-filled life. That I used to think that nothing could match what I got from surfing until it was taken from me. I broke my spine about between 10 and 12 years ago. I don't remember the exact time now because I've put it out of my mind. But I haven't surfed since then. I got in the water one time and I was out of commission for 3 weeks because of it. So I have not surfed since, and what it's done for me has allowed me to connect to the spirit on a much deeper level than I ever understood being in the water. And what I mean by that is not I didn't build a better spiritual life because I couldn't surf. It was that me missing the thing that I loved, almost more than anything in life. I think the only thing that I did have a better connection with was my spirit-filled life. And when I lost that surfing ability, it magnified tenfold my understanding of my spiritual life, because I missed it so much that I was in constant prayer, and I was in constant communication with the Father because of my agony for not being able to do this thing that I loved so much. And it changed my life radically on a spiritual level because of that lack of surfing and me understanding how connected I was to surfing and that energy, and how much I had to completely fill my life with spiritual things in order to compensate for my lack of surfing. And it was the only thing that kept me out of Great Depression and a lot of negativity in my life. I went through a lot of really hard things over the last 10 to 15 years. I've been very sick, and I've been unable to work. And every time I would try to do stuff, I would get hurt, and I wouldn't be able to do anything. And so I couldn't really hold down a job. I really haven't been able to do many things, and it's made things a struggle. And it could, between the lack of surfing and the pain and the problems that I went through with my body, it could have caused me to have extreme depression. And I know other people who have gone through similar things as me, that surfed as much as I did, have gone through really, serious depression, and worse, because of your connection to the ocean. And you can talk to anybody who's a real surfer, and they'll tell you that they just can't live life without it. And it's something that can be a life-changing experience. And all of those things apply to the spiritual life. That when you really have a connection to Father and the Spirit, there's nothing like it. And if you haven't had that kind of experience being a follower of Christ, then I say that you need to spend your time in prayer to ask for the Spirit, and ask for the indwelling of the Spirit. A lot of people don't understand that following the way is not just a prayer and then you're done. When you follow the way, you count the cost each day of being a follower of Christ. And this is not a one-time deal. It's a daily adventure. And each time you go out, just like surfing, each time you go out, you're looking for that Spirit. And that Spirit manifests itself when you're looking. And that can be in many different ways. And just like waves that have different shapes, and you have to surf them different ways, so is the spirit life. Some people get it one way, other people get it another way, and we're not to judge how the Spirit works, because the Spirit is working the way that it needs to with each of us, and we're all independent individuals. We have, each of our fingerprints is different, and just like our fingerprints being different, the Spirit knows what it needs to do with us to get the message across. And all we have to do is have faith and ask, and you'll receive. But most people are are under the impression that all they had to do was say a prayer and then show up in church and take a what I consider a religious approach to the faith, and that's not how this works. This is a relationship, and to have a spirit-filled life is to have a relationship with the Father, and to ask the Father for that spiritual filled life, and believe and have faith that this is going to be delivered to you, because the Father wants this for all of us. This is what's missing in the majority of the churches. It's what's missing in the people who call themselves after Christ. They are involved in a religion, but in most cases they don't have a spirit-filled life, because they still exist and live in the world, and they don't understand what it was to be a follower of Christ. And we're going to go into other videos later in another series about what is following the way, because in most cases it's radically different than the traditional Christian understanding of this thing we call faith. Most people, like I said, they have a religious way, and they follow a specific plan, and that plan in most cases was laid down by a Roman church, and the Roman religion of Christianity has confused the mind of most people in our world today. You can't have what's called the little flock, or the called out ones, being the Christian church, if there's millions and millions and millions of people who call themselves Christian. There has to be something wrong there, because that's not the way the scripture portrays it. Christ himself said there are few who find the way, and even his own disciples and the apostles were wrong about, or didn't understand, the majority of the things that he was saying. And so what we're here to do is to bring clarity into what this spirit life is all about. It's the most important part of the faith, the walk. The walk with Messiah is called the way because there is only one way, and we have to align with that way, which is Christ, more than we align with a church or a denomination or a specific understanding that we've been raised or programmed to believe. Because all of our education that each of us have is programming, and each of us grow up different, and we have different understandings of that, and it's all because of religion. But what the spirit life is all about is putting aside religion and tuning into the Spirit and allowing the Spirit to move you and to have an intimate personal relationship with you. It's not about going into a building or having worship service or singing praise or praying in unison in the church by following what the pastors are saying or the church leaders are saying. It's not about putting 10% of your money into a bowl. It's not about showing up more than one time a week, that you're more holy if you show up on Wednesdays or Thursdays, or you go on Saturday nights, and you go Sunday mornings, and help out the church, and you do all these things. It's not an action that Christ is looking for. This is like the story of Mary and Martha, where Mary was at his feet, anointing him and crying and sobbing, over the Messiah. And Martha was busy doing all this work, and she didn't realize that it's not about the chores. It's not about the day-to-day that you go and you show up somewhere. It's you sit at the foot of Christ, and you build an intimate relationship where you love him so much that that's all that matters. And when you do that, you are awoken to something that is so much deeper and so much more profound, and the Spirit will give you everything that you need and will teach you everything that you need to know if you ask. Many people today, they are just missing a couple key vital pieces of the puzzle to really have a profound connection with the Father. And it's because of our religious process. And so I'm hoping in this series that we're going to be able to awaken you to a Spirit-filled life, that you will learn to ask the Father for everything that you need, and that you will build a better communion day by day with the Father by praying for Spirit and waiting and looking for the Spirit to move in your life. We're signing out from San Onofre State Beach in California. Blessings. We'll talk to you later.